President Trump's decision to end the Iran deal may push gas prices beyond $3 a gallon.
That's because the economic sanctions could pinch an already tight oil supply. So where does our gasoline come from? Good question. Heather Brown sat down for a little economics lesson.
Let's start here with a quick Energy 101. Gasoline starts as crude oil, and that comes from countries all over the world. The crude that ends up here is then refined, mostly in the U.S., into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and more. So where does our crude come from? Well, these days, mostly right here. Nearly 80% of the petroleum consumed in the U.S. is produced domestically.
And that's different from 10, 20 years ago.
Right.
Why is that?
Yeah, it's because of hydraulic fracturing or fracking. We're getting oil from parts of North Dakota, Texas, the Gulf states that we haven't been able to before.
The oil markets are complicated. I mean, think about it. There's a lot of money involved. So not only does the U.S. import oil, we export it too.
If you're a U.S. oil producer, you're going to sell that oil for the best price that you can get. And a lot of times those best prices are in markets outside the United States.
Check out this graph from the past 10 years. While U.S. oil production is way up, we're exporting about 3 times more than we used to. Our oil imports have gone way down, but they're not at zero. We still depend on other countries for about 20% of what we use. Mostly Canada, then Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Venezuela, Iraq, Russia, and small amounts from a whole bunch of other places.
So we used to really rely on OPEC, and not so much anymore.
Well, it's true that our oil imports from OPEC have been declining, but actually we're still just as reliant on them as ever. And that's because global oil markets are so deeply connected.
Think back to the refineries, the imports, the exports.
Will we ever get to a point where we just produce all our own oil?
I think probably not, but we could get to a point where we produce all of our own energy for transportation. Right, and that would mean things like biofuels. It would mean things like electric vehicles, more hybrids. All of these approaches could actually decrease our dependence on foreign oil in a way that really mattered.
Heather Brown, WCCO 4 News.